If I could sit down with myself 2 years ago, I would have so much advice to share. But instead, let me share these hard-earned lessons with you today because no one deserves to struggle unnecessarily. In the past 2 years, I've faced burnout, perfectionism, chaos, and a whole lot of unexpected struggles. And if you're feeling stuck and frustrated or creatively drained, these lessons may change your life. I'm Natalia and I help you create better content and grow on social media, so let's do this. Your energy matters. I touched on this briefly in part 1, but I need to go deeper on this. Your energy matters so much. I've mentioned the first video last year. I was going through a tough time and creating content was really, really hard for me. I've always had issues with consistency, but it was so next level that I could barely pull myself together to focus on recording, on editing, and things like that. I can clearly see that the content that I created back then wasn't as inspired. You can see it in my eyes, and I also didn't feel like my regular enthusiastic self. And I feel like it showed. Now, don't get me wrong, I've always taken the quality of my teaching very, very seriously, so I know that the educational value is absolutely there. It's just the energy that really does make a difference. And as much as all of us can be in our flop eras from time to time, and it's perfectly normal to have your engagement and other metrics down, I can't help but tie mine to how I was feeling. I'm really proud of myself for showing up through it all, but looking back now, I can't ignore the difference that it makes when I feel aligned and excited. And that's the thing, the content was well made, but it just wasn't doing that well because energetically, I wasn't fully in it. And when I'm genuinely, naturally more enthusiastic, things just fall into place better. Now, I don't want to say just because you don't feel like it, you should stop creating content because it's not going to do well or something like this. Absolutely, that's not what I'm saying. If anything, practicing showing up when things aren't 100% there is a skill that any creator or business owners should practice. But ask yourself if there are some ways in which you can honor your energy in the whole workflow rather than pushing for the sake of pushing. Nowadays, I know when I'm down, it's okay to push the recording for another day if possible and actively try to find ways to get excited about the subject matter. Even changing things up a little bit in how I do things can make me feel more enthusiastic. So sometimes I'll record in a different place, I'll test a new piece of equipment, I'll design in a completely new style, just to keep myself engaged this way. Now, case in point, today I didn't quite feel that great, and the thought of setting up the whole studio was beyond me, so I just moved to the sofa. I skipped all the different lights I've got, and that's okay too. If you're feeling disconnected or creatively flat, pause and ask yourself what's really going on. Are you just pushing through to stay on schedule? Because if so, your audience doesn't just hear your words, they actually feel your energy. And I don't care what the hustle culture tells all of us, it's worth protecting the energy and let it lead you when you really need to rest. Now, I'm the queen of overcomplicating things. For proposing solutions to others, I always find a simple way to achieve the best results. However, I completely suck at taking my own advice. This makes me spend way too much time on writing scripts, on designing graphics, on editing videos, and just generally thinking about everything so much. Now, of course, the content that I create quickly, more spontaneously, and sometimes without that much forethought, sometimes really performs much better. And that's not to say that a strategic, more deliberate approach doesn't work. There's a difference between knowing who you talk to and then tailoring that messaging to them and that to, endlessly tinkering and trying to perfect every little detail. Things like that don't really matter on a grander scale. And in my experience, the more you put out there, the more you actually learn and the better you become. But you cannot really publish that much if you spend hours on every single thing you post. It doesn't matter what it is, but the bottom line is that no content is really worth spending that much time on unless you're working on a groundbreaking piece of journalism, a documentary or a piece of art. More often than not, I don't even post the things that I create because I'll take them to 60, 70, 80%, and then I feel like it's just not perfect enough, so it ends up stuck in my editing software or in Canva. So this is as much to myself as to you. Don't overthink your content. Simple really does it, and look through your phone, see if there are any videos of you doing literally anything. put some text over it, and you can then reuse your old caption. You can shorten it. You can even divide it into 3 different pieces and then overlay this text over 3 clips. Post or schedule and move on. Same goes for repurposing. I'm vowing to never waste another piece of content ever again. I've built a really great system for repurposing, but me being me, I just don't use it. It's that ridiculous. Also, you can reuse and post the same piece of content in different ways, and it still makes sense. Not every follower sees every piece of content you create, so people will not get mad or get bored. It might actually help you reach more people in the long run because there are more touch points along the way. Simplify your strategy, make it manageable to you, give it time to test, not just for a few weeks, but actual months when you can track the progress and see the outliers and then track the actual conversions. I used to think I could intellectualize my way out of burnout. Now, burnout happened to me so many times, or actually, I probably never gone over it, so I assumed it's just always going to be there. Therefore, I have to just bite the bullet even harder and use logic to find determination, right? This left all of my feelings intact, unresolved, brewing under the skin until they just burst out all at once, and I kind of imploded. And I know it sounds very dramatic, but I'm sharing this because I don't want to only share the good side. This would make me a part of the problem, I feel like, where everyone just shows the best, the most curated moments, the wins, the beautiful things, the experiences. And it's creating this idealized version of the world where everyone is just seemingly on top of the world, getting more and more successful while you're struggling. So yes, I'll call it what it is. It was an implosion of sorts, so I had to face the reality, right? And the reality was that instead of feeling my feelings, I was actually distracting from the problem, numbing myself, and then slowly running away from everything that really mattered to me. I was, again, fixating on a design or a script. I was tinkering endlessly. I was doom scrolling and actually isolating a lot. I wasn't one of those self-made, self-help successes where I had a breakthrough due to some impeccable routine. I've shared before that I went to therapy. I worked through my issues slowly but surely, and I'm still not done with all of it. I understood in the process that my way of dealing with emotions has not been the healthiest, but I had no clue before. What I've learned in the process was to actually feel these feelings and not just to reason them away. What also happened was that I was able to actually identify more of what I was feeling. So I wasn't just sad, all of a sudden I was actually disappointed, right? I wasn't just anxious, I was actually feeling inadequate. So progressively, I started noticing my energy levels as well, and I got in touch with my emotional side on a much deeper level, not just the intellectual one of understanding where the emotions were coming from, right? So this made me understand them and myself more and then feel them and actually take care of my needs, right? The surprising part is that this is exactly what brought about the change in my creativity and the way I actually approach my work now. I'm more open when teaching, I'm more relaxed, and therefore, hopefully, my audience is more relaxed when watching the videos. It comes back to the energy thing as well. You can create from a place of disconnection, so take the time to feel what's real for you right now. Of course, not everything needs to be solved instantly or shared publicly, but ignoring your emotions won't really make them go away. Creating with honesty begins with living with honesty. Sometimes it really feels like being a creator is just a constant flow of things that are not going right. There's an algorithm shift that you notice and your content is no longer recommended the way it used to be. The next day, a platform bug, a brand deal falling through, maybe some affiliate conditions changing too soon, or something that I had to deal with, your laptop dying literally 3 days before a corporate workshop. And I'm not even surprised anymore because this is just the job. This is a part of it all. When I first started freelancing years ago, I quickly learned that things go wrong all the time. It's the way being a business works, and having run a business before being a creator, it just comes with the territory, right? The difference now is that those problems can actually impact your online work in a way that's hard to hide. What's changed for me is how I prepare. Right? So I've learned I have to gain as much independence as possible, both in terms of creativity and money. So this is what I've been building steadily. This means finally executing on the business strategy I was putting off because of my other blocks, like the emotional ones that I've covered here and in the previous video. Things will always happen, and it's your responsibility to build an emotional resilience so that you can handle them when they come. Build an independent income stream to have a financial foundation that nothing can really shake, and then build systems that support your content creation and business operations, even if you can't be 100% hands-on. understanding that you constantly have to adjust and adapt and not really rely on what used to work is a blessing, but learning about yourself as much as you can is the best idea to really move forward. The way you operate within your business and the way you actually create content should be a constant process and not I found a method and it's never ever going to change from now on, right? This is something that I see creators really struggle with because the realities of the majority of the platforms really change dramatically, and some people are still operating like it's 2015 or 2019. And I get it, change can be hard, but if you lean into it, you can actually discover new fun ways of interacting with your audience. My best tactic for tackling changes happening in the industry is to go back to beginner mode, and this means, getting back to the whiteboard, experimenting and trying new things, new formats, maybe new ways of expression, because that's how you spot the fresh approach that really works for you, which you can then, of course, leverage. So many creators have this dream of leading the digital nomad life. At the end of 2024, I've spent 2 months in Asia wanting to try the work while travel thing, and I love to travel. I always have, and I always will. It's a big part of my life, and I always had a vision for what it would be like to, rent a cottage somewhere in the Canary Islands and just spend my days productively typing away on my laptop while looking at the ocean, right? And sure, I might have changed the more static cottage vibe to a loop going all the way through Vietnam and Thailand, which meant loads and loads of moving around, but I still hoped that the easy days would start with a nice work routine and then end with, an afternoon or an evening of exploration, of sunshine and bliss. Turns out the routine was impossible to establish, and this is how I learned that actually structure is not only a good thing for me to strive for daily, but an actual necessity without which I'm completely lost. We were changing our accommodation almost every week, spending a few days in the city and then a few days in another one, traveling around loads, so I never really got to settle anywhere. Sometimes there was no socket, sometimes I had nothing to put my laptop on, and more often than not, the excitement was actually calling much more than the need to create. Not to mention the actual exhaustion from moving around so much, paired with getting ill 3 times on that trip, meant that I had so much less energy for anything really. I was just not efficient, I was not productive, and then I was not quite focused still. The cute snapshots of travelers working from cafes or the balconies or the porches and like full glam and looking productive as heck just seemed so far removed from anything that I've ever experienced on that trip. I think the vision was that I'd create this lovely looking content in the most incredible places with nature in the background or the vibrant cities, but none of it really worked for me. Sure, I have tons of footage and photos from these 2 months, which I can now turn into content, but doing it live right then and there just didn't work for me. A week or two before, at a certain point of my whole trip, we rented a little meeting space to focus fully on work, and that was the first and only moment in the whole trip where we felt like we've done all we had to do and actually worked productively. 1 day out of 2 months. This made me realize that with my already overactive, very chaotic mind, it's very hard to stay focused on the goals when so much simulation is just happening at every step. I think it hit me the most when I was recording my full Canva tutorial in Ao Nang, and there was so much noise. My mic didn't work and I had no way to source another one in a short time frame. I was really not feeling creative at all, and all the designs I prepared beforehand were just not flowing when I was recreating them. I'm still happy that I recorded it. I'm still proud of how well it serves the community, but I know it would have been so much better had I recorded it at home with my standard mode of operating on a daily. Now, in so many ways, I'm glad we did it. It was something I always wanted to try, and it was an incredible trip. It also taught me that it's okay to step away sometimes, even fully, and you'll survive. The world's not going to end. Your channel is going to survive, and in fact, you may come back refreshed and ready with an incredible amount of new creative energy. I would absolutely do it again, but I would have all of my content pre-planned and scheduled, including all of my YouTube videos. I know it's absolutely doable, but I was under the impression that it would make it somehow less relevant. And again, I had this grand vision of being this on-the-go, spontaneous creator, which frankly, I never was. The thing that did work spectacularly was gathering ideas. Again, it's a testament to my system, but I captured so many amazing concepts. I had loads of insights and thoughts, which include some of those I'm sharing with you today. So for ideation, yeah, that's perfect. But for structured productivity, not so much. Of course, in my own case, if you're super diligent, it might work for you. Now, let me know if you've ever tried or had to work from somewhere other than an office or home and what your experience was. Oh, and also I probably wouldn't go away for a whole 2 months again. I really missed my daily life and the chaos became a little too much past the 4 to 5 week point. I really hope that something in here made you feel seen or helped you look at things differently. If it did, please like this video. It really helps a ton. And let me know in the comments. I'd love to know which one landed the most. Make sure to watch this video to create your own content marketing strategy very easily. And if you haven't watched part 1 yet, I'll link it right here too. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.